You have very clear views on certain things. Some kind of person just is that way. Some matter just is right. Some position just is the just one. You don't see anything wrong with that. This is your judgment, your view, the conclusion you arrived at after thinking it through. But there's a question worth pausing on. When did that judgment enter you? I'm not asking whether you've been deceived. I'm asking, is there a specific moment when you consciously examined it and then nodded your assent? Or did it simply slip in at some point you never noticed? And then you started day by day living it out in your life. Valued judgments in the real world are by nature extremely complicated. Loyalty and justice can conflict with each other. Efficiency and fairness can clash. The same act placed in a different context can be entirely right or entirely wrong. Very often there's no standard answer at all. Only weighing, only trade-offs, only difficult decisions made in a grey zone. But there is one thing that can compress all of this into a single unified standard of judgment, handing you an extremely high degree of value clarity. Winning is right. That kind of person is bad. Standing on this side is just. No context needed, no exceptions, no but. Cognitively, this is extremely easy. In competitive sports, nobody remembers the runner-up. The champion is the only standard, clear and simple. But this logic carries its own cost too. It turns losing into a kind of shame, makes the winner takes all feel like a law of nature, and erases from the narrative all the effort that was just as real, even though it didn't win. And when that same mechanism gets used to define a person's worth, whether by education, wealth, ethnicity, or political position, what it produces is no longer just an erased narrative. Once a society starts using a single standard to judge who has value and who doesn't, that clarity stops being a rule of a game. It becomes a verdict you were already inside of the moment you were born. No one asked whether you agreed. There's no window for appeal. There's no room for but. Your fate was already decided before that framework ever got around to deciding you, and you didn't even know the framework existed. The same psychological mechanism, applied in different places, carries costs of an entirely different magnitude. None of this happens by accident. The algorithm knows that feeding you content you already agree with keeps you around longer, so your worldview keeps getting clearer and clearer. The voices that push back against you keep dwindling, and exceptions and grey areas gradually disappear. The logic of traffic knows that opposition and taking sides spread the fastest. Either this or that gets 10 times the clicks of "this is complicated," so content naturally evolves in the direction of manufacturing clarity. Whoever has the simpler framework, whoever draws the sharpest line between friend and enemy, gets the most attention. Extremist ideologies and populist politics know that handing people a simple enemy is far more effective than handing them a complex analysis. One line, "it's all their fault," can mobilize far more people than an article that carefully lays out a structural problem. These systems run on different logics, but they converge sharply on one thing. They are all systematically supplying you with a higher and higher degree of value clarity. Not because they want to help you think things through, it's because a person who has been fed clarity is easier to keep consuming, easier to mobilize, more likely to stop actually thinking, easier to lead by the nose. And in this whole process, there was no thinking involved. It wasn't that you actively went looking for a conclusion. It wasn't that you examined it and then accepted it. It slipped in while you weren't paying attention, and then you started living it out. In your judgments, in your choices, in those moments when certain things simply felt self-evident to you. There was never a moment when you consciously nodded your assent. So, here's the uncomfortable question. Of all the judgments you're living out right now, how many of them are actually your own? I'm not asking whether you've been deceived. I'm asking, have you ever stopped to wonder where that standard you take as self-evident actually came from, who designed it, and who benefits from the fact that you accepted it? You may not even know where to start figuring that out. But knowing this much, that this question exists at all, may already be the most important first step.